Coming up on this Monday edition of Daybreak, China's demarcation of an air defense identification zone over an area of the East China Sea raises tensions in the region. Part of the newly established zone overlaps with Korea's own defense area. Catholic priests toss fuel onto the political wrangling between Korea's ruling and opposition parties by making controversial remarks about President Park Geun-hye and North Korea's 2010 shelling of South Korea's Yeonpyeong island. Plus, world powers reach an agreement with Iran to curb Tehran's nuclear program in exchange for a gradual easing of economic sanctions. Israel denounces the agreement as a historic mistake. Daybreak begins now.
You're watching Daybreak on Monday, November 25th. Live from Seoul, I'm Kimchi, filling in for Choi Yusan. China's establishment of a new air defense identification zone in the East China Sea has set off alarm bells in the region. The zone, which came into effect on Saturday, covers islands that are also claimed by Japan. It also overlaps with Korea's own defense zone. Our Connie Lee has more.
China's demarcation of a new air defense zone is raising concerns in Seoul, as it partly overlaps with Korea's own Air Defense Identification Zone, or the KADIZ.
It is regretful that the air defense zone declared by the Chinese government partly overlaps with our Korean Air Defense Identification Zone in the area west of Jeju Island.
The new zone also covers the Korean island Yeonpyeong. Yeonpyeong, a submerged rock that lies between China and Korea, is claimed by Korea even though it is not included in Korea's air defense zone. The Korean government says it will be in talks with China to make sure the zone does not affect Korea's national interest. The Korean government's statement on Sunday came a day after China declared the air identification zone in the East China Sea. It's Beijing's latest step to assert tighter Chinese control over some disputed islands known as Diaoyu in China and Senkaku in Japan. The islands now lie inside China's new air defense zone. China's government says it will take defensive emergency measures against any aircraft that does not identify itself properly in that area. This means aircraft flying in the zone without authorization could be intercepted by fighter jets. The U.S. says China's action is an attempt to change the status quo in the Pacific, while Japan called the move unacceptable and said it raises the potential for unfortunate incidents. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
World Bank President Kim says his organization will make preparations to promptly provide assistance to North Korea in case there is a political breakthrough and Pyongyang decides to open up. Meeting with reporters in Washington ahead of his visit to Seoul next week, Kim said the World Bank will work closely with South Korean experts on North Korea to collect data on Pyongyang's economic conditions. The World Bank chief said North Korea should learn from the example of Myanmar, once a closed country that is now attracting foreign investment since it decided to open up. A group of Catholic priests have thrown fuel onto the political wrangling between Korea's ruling and opposition parties by making some seriously controversial remarks about North Korea's shelling of Yeonpyeong Island in 2010. The priests also called on President Park Geun-hye to step down, saying that last year's presidential election was rigged. Our Kim Young-gil has the details.
The leftist Catholic Priests Association for Justice sent shockwaves through the political landscape Friday after one of their members made controversial remarks about President Park Geun-hye at North Korea's 2010 shelling of South Korea's Yeonpyeong Island. Priest Park Chang-shin said North Korea had only taken countermeasures when it launched the attack, blaming a South Korea-US military exercise that was taking place in the West Sea at the time. He argued South Korea would react if Japan carried out military exercises near the Korea-controlled Dokdo Islets in the East Sea. The priest also said President Park should resign and her predecessor, Lee Myung-bak, should be arrested to take responsibility for the National Intelligence Service's alleged meddling in last year's presidential elections. The presidential office and the ruling Saenuri party conveyed their displeasure, saying religious leaders should abstain from making comments that divide the country. On Sunday, the defense ministry condemned the priest's remarks on the Yeonpyeong Island attack. The ministry said the comments were irrational and they insulted the bereaved families. The main opposition Democratic Party sided with the priest to some extent, saying President Park and the Saenuri party needed to listen to what the message conveyed. However, DP floor leader Jeon Byung-un distanced himself from the remarks about Yeonpyeong Island. The Archbishop of Seoul, Yeom Soo-jung, said in a mass at Myeongdong Cathedral that priests should refrain from directly intervening with politics, as it should be up to believers to decide on what is right and wrong. Meanwhile, negotiations over the audit of the 2012 budget and setting 2014 government spending are expected to face a bumpy road. The Budget Settlement Committee wants to pass the 2012 budget settlement at Thursday's plenary session. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
The Korean government has vowed to boost the number of female workers by fostering the creation of more part-time jobs. Finance Minister Hyun Ho-seok said Sunday that part-time jobs allow women to strike the right balance between family and work. Hyun added working conditions for part-time workers, including their hourly wage and social insurance, should be set at the same level as full-time workers. In line with its push to raise the nation's employment rate to 70%, the government had already laid out plans to hire 600 part-time teachers for public schools from the second half of next year. The Korean government has released newly found lists of Koreans allegedly slaughtered after the Great Kanto earthquake in 1923. The National Archives of Korea on Sunday revealed the names of 290 victims after reviewing dozens of rosters that were unearthed in June at the Korean embassy in Tokyo. The records vividly describe the brutality of the massacre carried out by Japanese police, with many victims stabbed to death with bamboo spears and pickaxes. The Kanto earthquake hit Japan in September 1923, devastating Tokyo and Yokohama and killing over 100,000 people. In the chaos following the disaster, false rumors were spread about Koreans who were suspected of poisoning wells and carrying bombs, which led to the massacre of Korean residents in the disaster area. The frosty relationship between Korea and Japan is causing problems for the Obama administration's foreign policy, according to a report Sunday in the New York Times. The U.S. Daily cited a rare meeting of top defense officials of Korea and Japan this month, which ended on bad terms and with no agreements. And President Park Geun-hye recently demanding that U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel force Tokyo to behave. The article went on to say that the chilly Korea-Japan relationship was not helped by the Obama administration's inability to come up with a united front in dealing with China and North Korea.
If you want the latest news from Korea and around the world.
Return to the negotiations.
President Park Geun-hye, given the current circumstances,
On your way to work or at home.
Defense Ministry, the legislature will convene a
Tune into Daybreak on Arirang TV.
Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said Tuesday.
Iran and world powers struck a historic agreement over the weekend that seeks to curb Tehran's nuclear capability. Over the next 6 months, Iran will suspend some of its nuclear activities in return for partial sanctions relief. Our Kimchi reports.
After 4 days of marathon negotiations, a nuclear deal was finally struck Sunday between Iran and the P5+1 nations of the US, Russia, China, France, Britain, and Germany. The deal is expected to thaw frosty relations between Iran and the world powers.
We agreed that the process leading to this comprehensive solution will include a first step on initial reciprocal measures to be taken by both sides for a duration of 6 months.
The deal, which comes a matter of months after President Hassan Rouhani pledged to mend Iran's relations with the world, calls for Tehran to cease all enrichment above 5%, neutralize its stockpile above that figure,
and give greater access to nuclear inspectors. It also halts the installation of additional centrifuges, which are used to enrich uranium, and curbs the amount of enriched uranium Iran is allowed to produce. In exchange, Iran will gain relief from partial economic sanctions worth about $7 billion, including the unfreezing of $4.2 billion in revenue from oil sales. If Iran abides by the terms, no additional sanctions will be imposed. Iran said the agreement was an important first step to putting an end to an unnecessary crisis and opening a new horizon.
We need to work together based on the same principles on which we started, principles of equal footing, mutual respect, and common benefit.
The agreement reached in Geneva will last for 6 months, giving officials time to conclude a permanent deal. Israel called the agreement a historic mistake, saying it does little to dismantle Iran's nuclear capability and makes the world a more dangerous place. Kimchi, Arirang News.
Staying with the Iran nuclear deal, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry told U.S. news network CNN Sunday that Iran is not North Korea, a country that agrees to stop its nuclear development to get sanctions removed and then secretly continues on with its program. Kerry cited Iran's commitment to have daily inspections of certain facilities and its status as a member state of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Some Republicans and Israel, however, called on the nuclear agreement very dangerous, saying Tehran would be able to keep the key elements of its nuclear weapons-making capability. Reports claim secret high-level talks between the United States and Iran laid much of the groundwork for the agreement. Well, plays based on tragic historical events may not sound like light entertainment, but there are a few productions on stage in Soho right now that could change your mind. Our Son Jang-in reports.
The play Garden Balsam tells the story of a young girl who was forced into sexual slavery during Japan's colonial rule of Korea. It's based on Yoon Jung-mo's novel Your Mother Was a Korean Comfort Woman. It follows the girl from her youth through the birth of her son and granddaughter, using a combination of documentary footage and theatrical elements to shed new light on its subject. The actor's use of simple but strong words and expressive gestures helps get the message across.
We created the work thinking about how much we had neglected our own history and how the members of our generation should play a major role in helping to resolve the comfort woman issue.
Thousands of innocent people were locked up, beaten, and abused in Busan, and more than 500 of them were killed over 12 years, starting in 1987. The tragic incident was part of a scheme by the Yeonpyeong Welfare Center to get more financial aid from the government. The story is told in the play Happy Together, which, despite its heavy subject matter, manages to keep things light with colorful movement and music. The University of Laughs tells the story of a government censor whose job was to ensure the plays running in the theater district during World War II were patriotic enough. It follows him over 7 days as he gets into a conflict with a young writer who is determined to craft the funniest play ever.
This play makes us think about the true meaning of laughter in our lives, and we tried to deliver the message to the audience in the most fun way possible.
With all 3 plays, audiences have the opportunity to reflect on the past without feeling they're weighed down by history, and they may even help them learn something about themselves. Son Jang-in, Arirang News.
Korea's traditional side dish, kimchi, contains a long list of ingredients that are great for your skin. A local study has found bacteria found in the dish can help clear up eczema. Our Paul Lee reports.
4-year-old Ha-yoon has been suffering from atopic dermatitis or eczema since she was an infant. Though medical creams have helped, she still struggles to deal with the symptoms of this chronic skin condition.
Around this time of year, she starts breaking out all over her body, including on her back. It becomes so itchy that she can't fall asleep.
Ha-yoon's story is a common one in Korea, as 1 in 3 children nationwide experience some form of eczema. But there's new hope among parents, as previous medical research has gained fresh attention by showing that eating kimchi could help treat skin disorders. A randomized double-blind study was conducted last year according to the Samsung Medical Center that used a strain of bacteria found in kimchi called Lactobacillus plantarum. Oral doses of the lactic acid bacteria were taken by 44 children aged 1 to 13, twice a day for 12 weeks. As a result, the probiotic group was found to have fewer eczema symptoms compared to the control group. The Korean researchers concluded that supplementing a child's diet with this particular bacteria may help prevent chronic allergic reactions.
After administering lactic acid bacteria, we saw that there was a reduction in allergic inflammation. We found and verified that this improved symptoms of eczema.
Doctors also recommend eating a balanced, nutritious diet as well as applying moisturizer during the dry winter months to help reduce itchy and blistering rashes. Kimchi, they say, could just play a crucial role in developing a healthy immune system. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
And a good Monday morning to you all as we kick things off on the golf course as the season's last LPGA event, the CME Group title holders, took place over the weekend. Now all eyes on Park In-bi's quest for win number 7 on the season and also Lydia Ko's professional debut. Now Park In-bi going into the final round, time for 9th place, starts off great but a long way to catch up. The 25-year-old shoots a 4 under on the day, finishing off with 11 under overall, good enough to clinch this year's top earning, as well adding to the LPGA Player of the Year honor she already secured. Meanwhile, 16-year-old Lydia Ko finishes her pro debut shooting a 4 under as she's set to cash in her first prize money. Now moving over to baseball, where Samsung Lions closer Oh Seung-hwan signed a 2-year deal worth 900 million yen, or roughly $8.9 million last Friday with the Hanshin Tigers of the NPB. The deal which shatters Lee Dae-ho signing a few years back as the biggest contract for a Korean heading over to Japan will have Oh Seung-hwan close for the Hanshin Tigers for at least 2 years. And looks like he's preparing for the move quickly as the righty chose his uniform number he'll be sporting, number 22. While the 31-year-old wore 21 with the Samsung Lions, that number is being worn by Minoru Iwata at the moment and was given the next best number. Now moving on to some Sunday's K-League Classic action as Gyeongnam FC snuck past Jeju United 1-0 in a rather quiet match, but our next match was anything but quiet as we take a look at FC Seoul take on Busan I-Park on Seoul Citizens Day at the Seoul World Cup Stadium. Now we're going to fast forward over to the 26th minute of the match. Guess who it is? Dejan Damjanovic drills one past the goalkeeper here, his 16th goal of the season, and FC Seoul is up 1-0. 41st minute, this time it's going to be Ha Dae-sung who pokes one past Kim Gi-young, and already FC Seoul up 2-0. Things aren't looking too good for Busan in this match, but a ray of hope as Han Ji-ho in the 46th minute scores Busan's first goal of the match, and it's 2-1. But here we go once again, FC Seoul getting another chance here. This time in the 78th minute, a foul called on Kim Gi-young, and Dejan Damjanovic will take the spot kick and converts it. 5 goals in 2 matches and his 17th of the season. Meanwhile, Yang Dong-hyun scores in the 90th minute for Busan, but a bit too late as FC Seoul hangs on to take this match 3-2, your final. And shifting over to the English Premier League, where Kim Bo-kyung of Cardiff City scored his first goal of the season and against Manchester United. The goal came in 90+1 minute, helping Cardiff draw against Man U 2-2. And so with that, taking a look at some Sunday's KBL action, Dongbu Promi end their 12-game losing streak, beating the Seoul SK Knights 80-75. So congratulations to them. And Samsung Thunders beat the struggling Anyang KGC 78-66. So with that said, let's take a look at Incheon Itilan Elephants take on KT Sonic Boom. Of course, going into the game here, first quarter of the game, Anthony Richardson puts up 10 points for KT, but Incheon still takes a 16-14 lead. Second quarter, Incheon with 5 different players scoring in the quarter as they go into halftime with a 37-31 lead. Second half, Incheon continues to cruise through, but KT starts rallying in the fourth quarter of the game, but the rally comes a bit too late as Incheon hangs on to take this game 67-63. And finishing things off with some Sunday's V-League action, Daejeon KGC beats IBK 3-1 win. GS Caltex beating the struggling Hyundai Hillstage 3-1 as well on the women's side. Meanwhile, a 5-set match between Uri Card and Kepco, and Uri takes this match 3-2. So with that said, let's take a look at a possible championship preview here as Samsung Hwajae Blue Fangs took on Hyundai Capital Skywalkers. Now a relatively tight game from the start as both teams are evenly matched before Samsung squeezes in a 26-24 set win. Second set is equally as close before some timely blocking by Samsung Hwajae helps them take the second set as well, 25-22. Hyundai trying to force a fourth set here, but with Leo Martinez putting up 25 attack points and Park Chol-woo and Lee Seung-gyu combining for 5 blocks. The third set goes to Samsung and a straight set victory for Samsung Hwajae Blue Fangs. Well, that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Happy Monday morning to you. I'm Lee Ji-hyun with your latest weather forecast. Well, much needed welcome rain arrived yesterday to release the dryness and to wash the dust from the air. Well, this band of rain will gradually clear out from the nation for morning commuters in most parts of the nation. But it's very windy right now with on and off drizzles, which made leaves rolling around the road. So please drive with extra caution. Well, temperature-wise, morning lows are starting out at 6 here in the capital, which is quite mild. But daytime highs will be much cooler than what we had over the weekend, especially in the Seoul metro area. Well, as we can see, the top temperatures ranging from 7 to 14, but Seoul will only climb into 7 in the afternoon, making it feel rather quite chilly despite mild morning low of 6. So please expect to have very cold and partly cloudy day. We will start out with a few passing clouds, but these clouds will give way to a sun as we go through the day. But there is another chance of showers in the upper parts of the peninsula later on, so it will be a good idea to have some umbrella handy and dress warmly for your day. With that in mind, here are the readings for today. Morning lows doesn't seem so bad today, so started out at 6 but only climbed to 7 degrees Celsius. Daegu and Gwangju will come up to 12 and 10 respectively, while the high for Busan will hit 14. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju will remain warmer at 13, Daejeon will be at 8, while Dokdo will peak at 12, and Mount Keungang will be at 1 degree Celsius. Well, today should be the warmest day of this week, so please expect very cold end to November. Well, that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world. That's all for me at this hour. Enjoy your Monday morning commute and hope you have a wonderful day. And don't forget to join me again for another updates afternoon.
Well, those are the stories we are following at this hour. Stay with us throughout the day as we bring you the latest headlines.